You gave them every chance to win. If you look at this in slow motion, you can see Caitlin Clark clearly smiling in confusion, smiling in, did that really just happen? Smiling in, you slide W. And she says, she points at the other team, you gave them every chance to win. Oh, goodness gracious.
The WNBA has managed to stir up yet another major controversy, and this time, Caitlin Clark and Sydney Colson are making it clear they've had enough. Both stars are openly calling out the league's broken system, pointing to the shady officiating, the glaring double standards, and the absurd way the league spends more time silencing its athletes than actually protecting them. What should have been a night celebrating a gritty Indiana Fever victory instead turned into the perfect example of how the WNBA's credibility is falling apart right before everyone's eyes. This all really picked up steam with Sydney Colson. Let's break down the timeline because it's revealing. Colson kicked things off last night by bluntly saying that at some point in this league's history, Kelsey Mitchell deserves the same calls that other stars get. She added that the way Mitchell constantly gets assaulted without whistles is unbelievable, even joking that she might have to bring her sister in to press charges. The frustration came after Indiana's razor-thin 76-75 win over the Los Angeles Sparks. Normally, that kind of game would be cause for celebration in the Fever locker room. Instead, the talk of the night wasn't about the win, it was about another round of bizarre, lopsided officiating that left players, coaches, fans, and analysts shaking their heads. And the complaints weren't just exaggerated emotions. There were specific moments where the refereeing crossed the line. Fans online immediately started asking, "Who's paying you? Ref, who are you betting on?" Yes, there were shot clock issues throughout the game, but at the end, the mistakes became too big to excuse. How do you miss obvious plays in the final seconds? How are you not watching closely enough when hands clearly touched the ball? And to make matters worse, they rewarded the Sparks with a timeout at a crucial moment. That's when everyone watching realized this was more than bad refereeing. This felt manipulated. Caitlin Clark, sidelined with an injury but fully locked in from the bench, could hardly believe what she was seeing. Even Kayla, ready to push the floor, looked stunned by what was happening. Let's rewind to the second quarter. Kelsey Mitchell, Indiana's other lethal scorer, alongside Clark, drove hard to the basket. She beat her defender clean, and then, in plain sight of the entire arena, she was grabbed and yanked mid-drive. This wasn't just a light bump. It was blatant, obvious, and aggressive. The foul was so clear that even fans sitting in the highest seats could see it. Everyone expected the whistle. But what happened? Nothing. The refs swallowed the call and pretended it didn't exist. Mitchell, tough as ever, powered through and finished the layup, but the damage was already done. The Fever bench erupted in disbelief and anger, and the officiating got even stranger. One referee in particular, whose name has been thrown around by fans, Awan Agazi, looked like he was doing everything possible to tilt the game toward the Sparks. The final 1.9 seconds of the game somehow stretched into nearly 5 minutes of chaos. At one point, Mitchell stood at the free throw line with 4 seconds left. She was intentionally trying to miss to drain the clock. But the ref allowed the Sparks to reset with a timeout, something that should never have been allowed in that situation. It was such a bizarre and suspicious decision that fans began openly questioning the referee's motives. That was the breaking point for Clark. Though injured, she leaped up from the bench, waving her arms, shouting at the refs, and demanding they finally make the right call. Her passion was infectious, and soon, Lexi Holt joined in, furious at the injustice. The referee's response: they hit Hull with a technical foul. Think about that. The player who was fouled received nothing. The player committing the foul kept playing, and the teammate protesting the injustice was the one punished. If that doesn't scream corruption, then what does? Everyone watching knew the game was being tilted, and it looked like the Sparks were being handed chance after chance to steal a win they didn't deserve. But it wasn't just the Fever who were fed up. From her living room, recovering from a torn ACL, Sydney Colson had seen enough. She grabbed her phone and fired off one of the most viral posts of the season. Her words were sharp and scathing. At some point, Kelsey Mitchell needs to get the same whistle as other stars. The way she gets assaulted is outrageous, and it's gotten so bad that Colson joked about bringing her sister in to press charges. This wasn't a throwaway line. It was Colson saying publicly what Fever fans have been yelling all season long. Indiana isn't just dealing with bad refereeing. They're being systematically targeted. Mitchell's night proved Colson's point. She was relentless in attacking the basket, constantly pushing through defenders. Yet whistle after whistle was swallowed. Sure, she had an off night shooting from 3, but every player has bad games occasionally. What stood out was how obvious the lack of protection was. Colson's comments were equal parts furious, sarcastic, and brutally honest, and fans rallied behind her immediately. Her tweet exploded, with thousands of people reposting it and saying the same thing. Finally, someone had the guts to speak the truth. Clark, never one to stay silent, responded in perfect fashion. Her reply was short, sharp, and dripping with sarcasm. "Careful, you're going to get fined." Just 6 words, but they said everything. Clark knows better than anyone how the league reacts when its players speak out. You can get hacked, shoved, and ignored on the court, but the second you criticize referees, the WNBA punishes you. And she wasn't exaggerating, this is the ugly reality. Sydney Colson fired back that she can't get no more fine, and Fever legend Lynn Dunn even jumped in, saying she'd help cover the cost of any fine. Clark replied again with, "Love it." The whole exchange perfectly captured the absurd state of the league. If you want proof of what happens when players challenge the system, just look at Sophie Cunningham. She's become the face of WNBA punishment when it comes to calling out refs. Cunningham has been fined 3 separate times for daring to speak honestly. First, she lip-synced a TikTok mocking referees as stupid and incompetent. That cost her $500. Next, she criticized inconsistent calls on her $1,500 gone. And finally, she said what everyone could see. Paige Buchers was being pampered by officials while guards like Mitchell were being hacked with no protection. That honesty cost her again. Cunningham explained it clearly. She respects Paige, thinks she's an incredible player, but the whistles she got were outrageous. You couldn't touch her without a foul. Meanwhile, Fever guards were getting crushed with no calls. That kind of inconsistency isn't just annoying, it's proof the system is broken. And here's the bigger issue. Under Cathy Eng's leadership, the WNBA isn't standing up for its players. It's not fighting for fairness. Instead, it's punishing its own athletes into silence. The message is clear: take whatever the refs hand out, or we'll drain your paycheck. That's not just embarrassing, it's corrupt. Colson's comment, "I can't get no more fine," wasn't just a joke, it was a damning statement. When players start joking about being fined into bankruptcy just for demanding fairness, the problem has gone way beyond normal. This isn't about one missed call. It's a pattern that has played out all season. Indiana Fever players have been shoved, elbowed, and hacked relentlessly. The ref's response: silence. The punishment: slapping technicals on anyone who dares protest. Opponents know they can get away with it, and they exploit it freely. Instead of protecting its biggest star and one of its most promising young teams, the WNBA has become complicit in sabotaging them. For a league desperate to grow, this kind of corruption isn't just a black eye, it's a full-blown crisis.